Hello.
Hey, girl.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name's Danny, and I'm really excited because I'm here with American Discourse News, and we're collabing today. It's super fun and exciting. We've been chatting a little bit over the last few weeks anyway, and we've been wanting to do something together. And we were actually lucky enough, I guess you could say, to get into the beta testing for Ian Carroll's new Webb app. Program in order to search through the Epstein documents. And we wanted to do a little bit of not really a tutorial, but kind of just like a how to use it for people who are getting in there now. He's recently opened up the floodgates to a large amount of people to kind of pile in and start using the app. And with that, we know there's probably a lot of people who don't really know where to start or maybe haven't really used any AI programs to do this kind of research. And we wanted to give just a general overview. I do know Ian has said he's going to have a tutorial type video made on his end, like a 10-minute type video going over it. So definitely keep an eye out for that. But in the meantime, hopefully we can help provide a general overview that'll help you guys get started anyway for the time being. So looking forward to it. Very excited.
Me too. This is so fun. I'm so happy we're here together. And, if you're not following Rogue, please go to her channel and follow her because we're going to be doing these collabs a lot. And
Yes.
I think we should also talk about what was the purpose of Ian Carroll making this. So the Epstein Files, as you guys know, the drop was massive. It was 3 million documents. And it has depositions, court records, financial
Tons
documents,
of duplicates. Oh, so
yes,
much.
tons of duplicates. It's just a mess. Let's be honest. It's just a mess. And so
Yep.
what we wanted to do when we were going through this is kind of show you guys how to do that, but also Ian put this together because it's a better way to search. So
And they were lucky enough to get the downloads from day one. So if you are anyone who's been following along with the fact that when you go onto the DOJ website and maybe from day one you searched for a particular name and you got 6,000 references pop up, and then 2 days later it was like less than 5,000, and they're slowly kind of clearly being pulled out. Well, they got them from day one, so these are the initial drop, and they are compressed down. So when you go in and it shows like 1.5 million documents, that's because of the duplicates. There was duplicates of everything, and when they compress them down, this is what it, ended up with. But it's the original drop. We have everything that they put out there in the beginning. So if they've been trying to get their phalanges in there to mess with it, we got it in time. So
not
very
today,
exciting.
Deborah.
Not today, sir.
Yeah. No.
Sit down, Pamela.
And what makes Webb different too, like it's a document indexing tool. It doesn't pull from that open source AI.
Yes.
You can, lean on it a little bit more heavily. Obviously, use your discernment, but it goes through those primary source documents and you're going to see where they are. It lives in the search. So we'll show you all of that fun stuff, but it is super cool because you can really trust it. It's not that you have to, triple check every source like you do with ChatGPT and then like, oh, I
I
didn't
think
know
that's
that.
super important because, for a lot of people, because I had made a post on my personal Facebook page about the Webb app, and someone had commented, essentially saying, it's pulling from online, so you're going to get biased information. You got to be careful. And I was like, no, that's why this is so great. It's not doing that. It's pulling from the documents. It's using your information, that you're asking it to pull from them, but it's only pulling from what they've provided. So you can feel at least confident in the fact that it's not just getting junk from online that other people are spouting off and taking it as truth. So
yeah, I love that. And it's super cool. And so you can search specific names, you can search phrases, you can test your theories. Like it's really cool because it's pretty comprehensive. And I think that's why a lot of us have been liking it. Super grateful once again for the early access. And just want to throw that out there like one more time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then one more thing I kind of want to touch on before we actually got into the doc or the tool itself is how we can ask AI questions. Because I know if you're newer to the space, it can be hard. I worked in tech for a while and I had to learn. So like if that's you, don't feel bad. So like a question that wouldn't be super helpful would be saying something like, is so-and-so guilty? That's not using a research mind. We want to go in there and ask, where does Ghislaine Maxwell appear in the files, and then it will come up with some comprehensive statement, and then also like what financial entities are connected, like things that are more big picture, so it can help you break down what things are. And there's nothing wrong with using keywords if you have something in mind, but to get a comprehensive
if you're like
view.
looking for a really specific thing, of course, by all means. Ian
Yes.
had a great point when he had gone live, and he was kind of chatting with some of the people who've been in here messing around with it. And a lot of people were saying, they weren't really sure how to ask a question in like an effective way. And he said, I thought it was a really great example, but he had stated, if you're thinking of asking a question, a lot of people want to go the route of like putting in a sentence and asking like a sentence type question, and that's fine. But he said, think of it more almost like you're entering in an entire paragraph. So, you might have like this basis of how you want to ask the question, like a sentence, but expand it as much as you can so that when Webb goes in there to look for the information, it's looking in a lot of different directions instead of just like one straight. Think of it like a hallway, right? They're not just going straight down the hallway to find that one answer. They're going to spider off and like look for these other things because you've made it so broad. And it allows it to connect other things that it might not if you don't ask it in that way.
Which is cool because if you've ever used AI, you almost if you've used any other AI model, I've actually done the opposite where I always had to ask one or two questions so it doesn't get confused. So, if Ian's telling you can ask a huge question, that's great for research. I have personally had to do the opposite. So I think that's super cool. And then another thing you want to make sure you're always checking when you're doing any AI research, what's the neutral document based questions? Where's the source? You just make sure you're focusing on those things. And then, we can go through how it works.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. I'm going to share my screen.
I love I like the aesthetic of it anyway. I don't know about you, but I love how it looks like, I don't know. I just like how it looks.
It's
I like how
clean.
they put it together. Yeah.
It's modern. It
looks high end to me.
Yes, it's very tech bro. If you've ever worked in tech, it's a tech bro look. So you'll go here and this is where I would recommend anyone start. You can go in here and click new canvas. And then I'm going to title this We Are Awesome because we all are awesome. And click create canvas. Actually, I did this before. You actually make sure you go down and select your data set. That's important, or else it won't know what to
the files
search.
that it's going to pull from. Yeah,
exactly. And eventually it sounds like they will add different data sets down the line, but remember, this is beta. So beta will,
and it's not perfect. There's some glitches. We were saying this to each other before, but there's a Discord chat. We can all converse with each other in there, and so we are letting people know when we run into things. But I have seen consistently some issues with like logins. When you initially come in, you'll have a code you enter in, and it then will prompt you for like your email and a new password. So you'll set all of that up. But what I was finding was, especially if I was switching between, whether I was using my computer or maybe my phone, switching between them, it would get kind of confused and not allow me to log in. It might not even like refresh to a page where I can put my email in, but hours later it was fixed. And, so you may run into that again. It's still being tested and being sorted through all of these little things. So just if you run into things like that and you don't know where to go, you can always leave us a comment and we can try and see if we can reach out to anybody on the other side and let them know so they can take a look at it. But I know that they are pretty quick to be on top of these little errors that we've been running into. So
yeah, and if you don't have access to that Discord, just click beta feedback, bug report, suggestion, appreciation, pop it right in here, click submit, and they'll get to working on it. So it should be no problem. So let's follow our rules here and ask it a very intensive question. I already kind of know where this is going because I've asked this question before, but we're going to ask about Pam Bondi, our best friend. So we're going to ask,
hey girl.
Was Pam Bondi a key player in the Epstein investigation while she was AG in Florida? So we've got a lot of questions here. I'm going to break down what my question is, why it's important. So we have our key player, Pam Bondi. Obviously, the investigation, she was an AG at the time and in Florida. So there's a bunch of keywords instead of plugging in one or two. So that's kind of what I've done with this question. And let's see what it tells me. And it has to think. And it'll tell you.
It gives you little updates as it's going.
Yeah. It says entity intel, which I love. I don't know. It's just the word. Good job, Webb team. I just love it.
We were saying earlier too, within the Discord chat, they were talking about some of the confusion. When you're looking at the screen, it's divided into these thirds, and this the left-hand side, the search documents, people were thinking this was where you enter in the question that she just put in here. Obviously not. We've put it in on the left-hand side, and I think that what they're probably gonna do is minimize this to be a smaller portion of the screen so it's a little less confusing. But once they pull up the documents here, you'll see them load underneath on that left side. So that's where those documents they're referencing are gonna filter through. But yeah, that's not where you're gonna put your question in, and it is a little confusing. I think they had even tossed around the idea of taking out the word search and using something else to just make it not seem like that's where you're writing your question. But
Yeah, and as you
I
can
also
see,
think when you read from left to right, it's like kind of where you initially
yes.
start over here. So I can see why that would be confusing.
And a lot of chatbots live on the right side of anywhere if you
Yes.
ever go to a website. So it makes sense why if you're a developer, you'd put it on the right. That's typically where they live. Sometimes they'll live over here on the bottom left. Typically, they wouldn't
Mhm.
live on the top left anywhere if you're thinking about a chatbot. And that's what this is. It's like a chatbot with AI. So that's kind of where I think about it, which makes sense for their placement. So it tracks for me, but I can see why people may start here. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see what it found. Pam Bondi's role in the Epstein investigation. So, key finding: Pam Bondi was not a key player in the original Epstein investigation during her tenure as Florida Attorney General. She was there from 2011 to 2019. The documents show her involvement came much later, in 2025, when she was appointed a U.S. Attorney General under a different admin. So then it says original Florida investigation. The documents confirm the original Epstein investigation occurred from 2005 to 2008, with the controversial plea deal finalized in 2008. And then Bondi was not Florida Attorney General during this period. She was served from 2011 to 2019. The investigation was handled by Palm Beach County State Attorney. And then Bondi's later involvement. Bondi appears in the documents primarily in 2025. So basically, it's telling you the whole time she was the Attorney General, she was not involved. And so what we can ask is, when did Florida AG get involved in the Epstein case? And what Attorney General, I'm going to say AG, was it? So see a couple questions in there so it can really pull.
What's so nice about it is just the fact that obviously this information's in the file. So if you were searching through them and you found the right ones, you could piece that information together, but it's doing it for you. So instead of having to take multiple documents and go, she worked here from this period, from this, this time to this time, and then piecing together her involvement, it just does it for you. So it's a conversation and it's summarizing it all and it saves so much time. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's super nice. And it'll take a little bit to think, but also it's running through 1.5 million documents right now. So giving
Yeah,
our
just a
little
few.
bot some grace. All right, Webb. See, there's an exact match, which I like that it says that. It's really thinking. See that those dual questions really gets it, because I've done a
Yeah.
couple where it's just one and it'll pull it a lot faster. Okay. So the Florida Attorney General's office was not directly involved in the original Epstein investigation or plea deal. And then the original investigation between 2005 to 26 was these people, federal involvement during this time. And then it's going to just tell you everything you need to know about these attorney generals, which is awesome. And then what's missing from the gap is there's no evidence in the documents that Florida Attorney General's office under Bill McCollum played an active role in investigating during the initial period. And then what I'm going to ask it was,
It does give nice suggestions here at the bottom too, which I've
it
liked
does.
kind of reading through those. If you're looking to go deeper, it'll give you an idea as to what else you could ask, which is pretty cool.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask it, did Rob DeSantis open an investigation into Epstein? It'll
No,
come up.
Ron DeSantis. That's what you want.
It's Ron. It's fine. We're just going to go with that. It's totally fine. Let's see. Well, now we're just going to see what it says. Shoot, we're going rogue here. And after this will pretty much tell us how this works, and I'll point out a couple of things.
Yeah, it's nice. It'll show you the documents it's referencing. You can see the little red numbers when it gives you its answer are the documents, and you can either click on those or you can click on at the top. There's another she'll show you after that you can click on and see just the documents, which makes it easy too.
Yep. So Ron DeSantis. Why did I think his name was Rob for like 2 seconds? Okay. I
No,
just
it's
gaslit
Ron. Yeah,
myself.
you were
I
right.
gaslit myself so bad. Okay. So Ron DeSantis. So he did open an investigation into Epstein on August 6th, 2019. So what we just proved by looking at this was Pam Bondi had no interest in investigating.
Just
Just blinders on. And I've done a deeper dive, and it'll even tell you that she obviously would have been completely aware of the investigation the FBI was taking during this
I mean,
time.
if she wasn't, that would be a lot to have to say about her performance in the position.
Exactly. Yes, that's another point. But anyway, we're not going to go down like that rabbit hole, but you can, which is awesome in Webb. So we just
Yeah.
determined so many things so quickly. Ron DeSantis did actually look at Epstein. He opened it right away. I know Attorney General Bondi in Florida left in January 2019. And then, a few months later, there's DeSantis coming in.
Makes you wonder why you waited, right? Like,
right. I mean, he was probably fighting tooth and nail. Let's just assume the best on that one. But anyway, so that's what I want to show you. I'm going to pop it over to you, Rogue, and if you want to show them the middle section there.
Yeah. Let's see here.
Webb is just so fun. And I like to say webbing, like happy webbing, y'all. Like get to webbing.
Happy webbing. Well, webbing is going to be applicable here because this is a really cool tool that they added in here. And now my stuff's gone, right? Where is it? Do I not have any here? I cleared it out. That's right. And let's see. I don't know. What do we want to look at?
You can just look at Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell. We could just pull her in and have fun with it.
I'm keeping it very whatever because I'm just trying to get a document up. But there's this really cool tool. So if you're someone like me who is a very visual person, this is something you might really enjoy about this program. Tucked away.
If you guys didn't know it, but earlier I was like drawing with it. I was typing, I was drawing love. So you can draw with it too, but she's going to show you something super cool.
Yeah, it is neat. Earlier when I was looking up the whole Ghislaine and where she was picked up, because I had mentioned to you, she was arrested and found in the state of New Hampshire where I live. Mm-hmm. And when I was looking through all of it, there were some other names that kept popping up in New Hampshire and Maine too. And I was like, interesting. Okay. But yeah, so here are the documents. So we had talked about how you can click on these and pull them up so you can see them in like their full form. But you also can drag them into this little, actually, I think I have to get rid of it here first, maybe. But you can bring them down into this little canvas here. And it then will allow you to move them around. So you have this whole area here. And you can move documents around. So if you find something that maybe connects to a totally different question that you had, and you want to connect them together on your little canvas here, you can put them in here and you can scroll out really far, which is really cool, and then move them around. So this is when you're in the little square and you're scrolling, you're going to zoom in on here, but when you're in here, it's going to go up and down. But then you can move them closer together and you can zoom in very closely. So it's really cool because if you have a large kind of web of documents connected to one another and you want to just move around, you can zoom out and scroll over to where you need to go. And then you can still you don't have to like click on them to see them very clearly, which in this kind of format, I kind of anticipated it being like, digital looking and like you had to, open it further to read it clearly, but you don't. And then these little dots here are really cool because you can take them and you can connect the documents that you want to connect. So again, like if you found one that was related in a way that you didn't realize or, isn't really easily connected in another way, it's a really great visual. You can drag them from the bottom, you can drag them, across like this. It's really neat. So if you have one document that's like the primary, and then you've got all these ones spidered off of it and then more spidered off of those. So again, if you're someone who's a very visual learner like I am, I think that's really handy. And I just feel like I've actually said this for a little while now that I feel like a lot of the stuff we deal with in like this political, like everything is so hard to piece together because some stuff is from 20 years ago that's connected to something today, but it's really hard to see the connection without a visual or like a timeline. Like I feel like timelines are what's going to like allow us to maybe be able to prove points or factual things that took place because they've fudged up everything in the in-between so much. But if we're like, well, we can prove you were here on this day though, because of this timeline, it's so much easier to have things connected like this. And I really like this feature for that purpose because there is so much happening and it did take place for such a long period of time that you might not realize that they had this connection that went back that far until you've got these things all connected in the ways that you can do on here. So I really love it. I think that's really handy.
It looks
I
like
had
Figma.
also
I don't
what's
know if you
that? I
guys
don't
have
even know what
ever
that
used
is.
Figma. Yeah, it's a design tool, but a lot of people use it, though
Oh,
it looks just like Figma. And that way it's really easy for people to, like you're showing, like thread the needle here.
yeah, I
But yeah,
just
that's
think it's
something to point
cool.
out.
You can make them
Yeah,
smaller, you just shrink them down here, and you can move them all around wherever you want. And, so if you get so many on here that you have a lot connected to one document, that's fine because you can minimize them and you can still scroll in and see them really clearly when you need to. And yeah, over here there are also like new chats. So if you wanted to leave this one, you could, and you can create a new one by clicking here and having like a new, you would choose like this. If you wanted to try a new one, you can do that, or you can clear it out by just, hitting the little trash can and you'll have less kind of clutter in there if that's what you're needing to do. But realistically, it is very user friendly. I think for some people, it might still be something to get a little bit used to, but either way, it's awesome. I haven't tried the highlight tool yet. I'm not sure how to use it exactly, but if I
that's
figure it out,
probably
maybe we can do like
it.
a short video, like a short or something on it. But
Yeah.
like we said, Ian's supposed to be doing a 10-minute-ish type tutorial that I'm sure will go over a lot more specifics than, we are even aware of yet. But, given that we've had a few days to kind of play around with it and a lot of people aren't going to have any knowledge on it, we figured we'd do this to try to just help. One thing we had mentioned before as well that I think is important is when you're doing searches in here, don't limit it to, I feel like sometimes we limit it to like what we think we should be looking for, but the reality is there's a lot of information in here. Just last night in the live chat when they were kind of covering a lot of this, individuals were talking about the black magic connections they had found within the files, as well as a lot of connections to Scientology. And there's just certain people who are going to have knowledge around things that like I don't have knowledge around. Like maybe you worked in a warehouse for 20 years of your life and you understand how they all have this one function that they do all the time. And if you're looking through a document about something going on in a warehouse, you're going to say, that's not actually how that works. And I would never catch that. So, if you're wanting to dig into them, think about the things that interest you, things that you're knowledgeable about, things that you could look into with confidence and feel like you're providing information that other people may not have. It might not seem like much to you because you might be like, it's just I work at a warehouse, like whatever, but you have knowledge I don't have, the same as everyone else. So use it to your advantage. There's a lot of information here that connects to a lot of stuff, and we don't know where those connections come from or what things are referenced that might bring light to information that we need to push this further. So make sure you're not gaslighting yourself into thinking you don't have anything to offer, because you certainly could. And I urge you all to look into it and try your hand, because we need all hands on deck with
Right.
this.
Yeah, and I was telling Danny this before, but someone like a Wolves in Finance, this is a
Mm,
huge operation, and a lot of the operation is finance. It's not
yeah,
necessarily the trafficking stuff is like a side gig, it seems,
yeah,
even though it's the most sensational, it's actually not the full story. And
yeah,
it's a huge network of operations. And another great way you can look up people that you might not know is there's other tools out there where you can figure out who are these people and then plug it into
yeah.
Webb, and that would make it really easy for you. And Danny's remind us of that fact of the files. There's so many files. How long would it take one person to get through? Yeah.
Someone had figured out that in order for one individual to actually piece through every file that was dropped on the government website, it would take over 800 years. So, yeah. I mean, the fact that they've already split that in half by compressing them down to 1.5 million versus 3 million is fantastic, but that's still 400 plus years, right? So, yeah, we need a lot of people looking into it. And I think a lot of people have been impacted, people who maybe didn't ever think they would try and, participate in something like this. I think they're feeling called to do it because we all recognize how important it is and what kind of an impact it's had on all of us. And I wanted to say as well, if you are looking into it and you are coming across some of the really dark stuff that is very hard to look at, some people are better at compartmentalizing and making sure it doesn't really bring them down too much. And I think those people are necessary and great for things like this because they can do a lot of that stuff. But there's a lot of people who can't. And if you're diving in and you're coming across some of that stuff and you need to take a step back, like recognize that and give yourself that time to like take a break or maybe go in a different direction completely. But I had also mentioned before that I've dug in even through the government site because I was looking through that before I had access to this and in here. And I have yet to come across maybe more than 1 or 2 emails that reference something that sounds along those lines. Most of the time, I'm not seeing that. So if you're avoiding it for the fact that you think that when you go in here, it's going to be in your face, this stuff that you just can't handle, I think you'd be surprised at how it's not quite like that. You're seeing the highlight reel on your social media, and that's just how life is. And so when people do find those things, they are posting them, and those are really hard to look at. But for the most part, it's not going to be something you're going to just stumble across when you open this up. It's not like that.
Yeah, they're
Keep
getting
that in mind.
sensationalized. They're
Yeah,
completely
those are the ones that
sensationalized.
everyone's talking about. It's the squeaky wheel.
Yes. And so when I'm doing this, I like to think of it in power structures, right? What
Yeah.
like banking industries, scientific communities, like Danny was saying, if you have a niche, dig into those niches, or if you have a special interest that you know a
Yeah.
lot about, they will surprise you. And if you have someone in your head that you're like, this person was the head of Harvard, I wonder if they're in here, and you
Yeah.
know information based on an institution you've worked on, look their names up and double check them in the
Yeah.
files to see if there's any relation, because it will surprise you who would come up that you wouldn't
Yeah.
think would.
Well, and we were talking too about the other, is it called Gmail? Is that what they're calling
Yeah.
it? I don't even
Mhm.
remember what it's called. You've accessed it. I have not, but that sounds like a place that would be Webb is great, but I think utilizing multiple things together, and that is one that is definitely going to be beneficial to, even especially if you're someone who maybe just doesn't even know where to start. Like if you're someone who doesn't have like any baseline knowledge, but you'd like to try and help or you'd like to try and look into it, going somewhere like this that I believe she's going to pull up here, and going into this is really going to allow you to get some names and some. And if you've done anything like this, you'd know that once you get a name and you start diving in, then you get another name and you just keep going down this rabbit hole because that's just how it works. So if you're not really sure where to go, this is great. I love being able to see the text. I really like
Yeah.
this.
And on here, like what you'll see, I'll give you 3 suggestions because I have looked through some of these. Steve Bannon, great first conversation to look at. You will find many names, different infrastructures, a lot of political game. You look into this Melanie woman, she was under the, interestingly enough, she was a former Miss Teen USA. Who else do we know like that? And then she also worked at the Gates Foundation. She was directly under Bill Gates, which that's a crazy connection, right? She talks about Bill Gates all throughout here. So you will learn so much about Bill Gates and who is actually running Bill Gates. He himself might even have a handler, allegedly. And then another one. So those 2 right here. And then this Joy Ito. He was the former MIT media lab director. So, like I said, you're going to see different types of people: political operatives, science people, financial structures. The Rothschild name, very
Yeah.
big name in this files. Rockefeller, big name. JP Morgan, big institution. So think big, broad levels, and then you will see the full scope. At least, I mean, I think it's almost impossible to see the full scope. You will see a huge slice of how much he was running in the background. It is alarming to, I mean, trafficking aside, this case is
Yeah.
so big. He was in every single industry you could basically think of. He was in AI
Around the world, like
around
everywhere.
the world. So
Yeah.
I would honestly start with these 3 people and look at them up in Webb, because they were
And
honestly
also
super interesting.
there one thing to try and keep your like open your mind to is a different way of just thinking about things. Think about things more in like an archaic way, right? Like the structures of, you had mentioned bloodlines, like that's not something we talk about in like,
They say bloodlines
modern
all the
day
time.
anything pretty much. But yeah, this is the kind of thing that they really, so if you're someone who's into like classic literature, think about some of the structures that they talk about in that, and like you could even go down a rabbit hole looking at things in that same like viewpoint, right? And I was actually just thinking how it could be cool, and I was thinking I could do a spreadsheet or something. It could be nice, but honestly, we could use Web too. But thinking about how breaking it up into different categories too, like universities or countries, or, and then going from there, like what universities pop up a lot, and then what people are associated with what university, it's very quick to kind of spider web off and yeah, just
Yeah,
let
you
it,
can go
let
by
your mind go
industry.
where it goes.
Yep, you can go
Yeah.
by industry. You can go by almost any industry, which is the
Yeah.
craziest part. People don't want you to know that. They want you to hear more about the crazy stuff.
Like, we're
Um,
talking massage therapy, or dentistry. Like, one of his girlfriend, that Karina Shuliak, or however you say her name, I'm pretty sure she was like a hygienist or something, or some kind of dental something. She went to
she's a
dental
dentist
school,
now.
right? So, I mean, literally all kinds of fields, because we're talking about someone who had an island that had all kinds of needs, like regular needs, chefs, transportation, storage, health and services, whatever. There's literally a million avenues you could go down that will have some kind of information. And if you have knowledge in that, even better,
Yeah,
because I
because
could
you
look
would
at
be able
something
to
that has
point
to do
out.
with a field that I have no idea about, and I'm not going to think anything of it. I'm going to read it and be like, okay. But someone else would read it and go, wait a second. That's why this is so great that we can all come together and do it.
Yeah, so you need to think about things in your industry if you want to, or your special niche, and think of the red flags, the keywords, the codes
Mhm.
words, things that other people wouldn't know, that like that makes a really big difference. And then I did want to point out, if you find anything interesting like that, I would recommend you tag the web and let them know what
Yeah.
you found within your searches, because if it's something like truly no one's seen before, I'm not saying spam
Yeah.
them with every search, but if it's something that you think could use some visibility, just letting them know you used it, that would be, I'm sure, really helpful for them.
Do they have
And
the ability to, like, message on here? I'm not even sure. Can you message them directly if you wanted to? Like, if you had something you were concerned could be, like, very important, you didn't wanna just put out there?
I'd have
I'm
to go
just
into my
thinking that might
personal.
be, like, I could see some people running into that if they did find something that they didn't wanna just come right out and be like, "Hey, I found this." You know?
I don't know. Yeah, I think
But
you'd probably have to
in
go to a
case you could
specific
reach out
creator.
and yeah, you could reach out and let either comment on our video or someone
Yeah,
else and let them know you wanted to reach out to them
you
privately
could
and see
email
if you can get
us.
a connection that way. Yeah, or
Yeah,
email
just
someone.
email one of us and we could
Yeah.
look into it, that in case it's something you don't want to go
But
public
I
with.
recognize that some people might be hesitant, to just put something out there that they found that could genuinely be, you know, rough for the individuals trying to hide this stuff, so
Yeah, and that's something to bring up, is honestly, you need to really consider when you're looking at things that are deeply ingrained in power structures. I'm not just talking about the sensational stuff. I'm talking about big power structures that have been utilizing backdoor methods to get what they want. You will probably find money laundering. You'll probably find people taking things that they shouldn't have been, obvious crimes, right? Think about your safety when you're researching these things and posting it. If you don't feel comfortable doing it, lean on that.
try to reach out to private
Yes,
message and
yes,
things of
try
that
and
nature. Yeah.
yep, send that to somebody else if you don't feel comfortable, because that's important too. Like, we don't want, people to go out of their way and then,
Especially if you're not in a position like where we're doing this and this is something we're, involving ourselves into. If you don't want to, that's completely understandable. Just to look into it and find information doesn't mean you have to participate in the exposure of the information. But if you find it and you want to share it, you can reach out privately. You don't have to feel like you have to put yourself out there to get the information out. You
yeah,
can let
use
someone else
web
do it.
as the tool you want it to be. If you want to put it
Yeah.
out there, that's fine. So, I think that kind of covers everything. What do you think?
Yeah,
Anything
no,
else?
I agree. Yeah.
This was super
Super
fun.
excited to play around more.
Yeah, and we're gonna do more stuff together. We're probably gonna do your guys' favorite Charlie Kirk stuff. We've got a couple
Well,
ideas
we've
there.
already been talking about we have one we already have planned, so we're
Yes.
gonna sort out the specifics on that, and hopefully in the near future, we'll get that one out, but
Yep.
yeah,
Look out
again,
for
if
a live.
if you follow me, but you don't follow her, definitely give her a follow, and yeah, we're excited. Lots of exciting things to come.
Yep. Please like this video if you see it. That
Yeah,
helps it get across to other people. Feel free to share it on X, on Insta. I don't care where you share it. Just do it if you know people are interested in web and in our work. So hope you guys have a great
yeah,
day.
absolutely. Love
Bye,
it.
y'all.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.